Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. We're going to talk about watches. We are going to continue our coverage of the Monaco Legends auction that is coming up next month in about 3 weeks. Um, of course, it is in Monte Carlo. I think they have a preview at the beginning of the month in Milano as well, or rather in the second week, at the beginning of the second week of April at the Mandarin Oriental in Milan. And then in the few days that precede the actual auction in Hotel Méridien Beach Plaza in Monte Carlo. The auction is going to take place on April 20th and 21st at that same hotel, Méridien. And we have already started discussing it in the last live, which was on Tuesday night. But let's get back into it. I'm going to post a link. So if you want to browse at your own pace, if you want to choose a few pieces, and send in the lot numbers with a super chat, I'll be more than happy to delve in and discuss them in as much horological and historical detail as possible for you. But before that, as always, I will start with some Instagram posts, some Instagram content that I have been working on, that I've been posting over the last few days. And frankly, it makes me get a little cynical. Um, and it has a lot to do with how I used to really agonize over, crafting the perfect prose, coming up with a good caption, and find the right kinds of visuals, whether it is something that I'm photographing or snapping off my own, or whether it is some sort of watch spotting or something that I see on an auction, anything else that is interesting. Um, and here we are. I post, 7 reels, basically in about 7 days, and they're all hot watches. 5 FB Jones, 1 AP, one Rolex, and Paul Newman Daytona at that. And I break all my own records, which I guess are quite negligible. But at the end of the day, uh, I get from 20,000 account engagements to 85,000, and it's still going up. Um, but it's understandable, actually, because I see, for example, like the so-called big shots YouTubers and watch social media people talking about this watch and saying, "Oh, here's a close look," and they use that one stock photo that Christie's published. And of course, I went out of my way. I got my hands on the watch. I got a nice little video out of it showcasing the unique details, and I wrote about it, and it has almost 2,500 likes. Of course, it deserves even more, but that's outrageous for me. And it's kind of mind-blowing, right? You might work an entire year posting day in, day out, try so hard to come up with the right way of phrasing that one sentence, coming up with a nice narrative. No one reads. and no one even cares about the pictures. It's just about the hype. But thankfully, this was actually something I cared about. Um, I've always admired Michael Schumacher, and the fact that uh, these were watches, 8 pieces from his personal collection that were coming up for sale was very interesting to me, uh, very fascinating. I genuinely felt in the presence of greatness, which doesn't happen every day, uh, even though we hope that's how watches strike us. That's what make us think. And the silver lining also, I was going through the videos of that 5-piece ruthenium collection set, and I I thought I missed the jour nuit piece, but then I realized it was one continuous video, one of the videos that I took of another watch from this collection, and I had finally grabbed it. And of course, the particular importance of this watch, of this model, is that it was, in fact, something exclusive to the ruthenium collection. So it is actually one of the only 99 pieces produced uh, of this model, period. Not only the dial and the finishing of the brass movements is different, um, with the plating and coating that gives the collection its name, the ruthenium collection, instead of the rhodium, which was what they used in the brass movement age before the transition to 18-karat pink gold movements. But the fact that this piece has a day-night indicator, which again, it's a small detail, right? There was the réserve de marche, which lacks that day and night indicator. There was the octalune, which has a moon phase indicator, arguably more useful and more fascinating than the day and night indicator. But it is one of those little details that makes this particular watch so specific. And again, it's part of a whole set. I'm still to share one more piece out of that set that includes the octa chronograph, that includes the chronomètre résonance, that includes the tourbillon souverain, and an octa calendrier in addition to this piece that I posted today. And the important thing is, again, these are from Michael Schumacher's own collection, and we have seen many interesting pieces to come out of that collection already. But there's something more personal about these pieces. You know, Chappelle Show fans will remember uh, Charlie Murphy's Real Hollywood Story with Rick James, and he says, I stepped in, I saw his aura, right? These watches had lots of that aura, a lot of charisma, and again, it's not something you experience every day. Um, Out of the 99, all 5 pieces are actually number 92, which I believe is a reference to the year of Schumi's first Grand Prix triumph, which is at Spa, of course, Francorchamps in Belgium, 1992. Incidentally, in 1991, that's where he made his debut. That's where he drove Formula One for the first time. And in 1992, he won his first Grand Prix there. And now we're here with his 7 world records, World Drivers' Championships. And he has been joined in that exclusive club since, of course, by Lewis Hamilton, who might still go one beyond. It remains to be seen, but most certainly it's a very exciting collection. I have seen many, of course, lamenting and mournful comments. You know, why is the family selling it? They shouldn't sell it. You know, these are so valuable. And I agree with that sentiment, right? Obviously, it's not my place at all to issue judgment or try to pretend that I would know better than the Schumacher family as to what to do with these watches. Obviously, these pieces are worth so much beyond any sort of monetary valuation. That being said, I think their reasoning is pretty much understandable. There's no one in the family, including Mick, by the way, who cares about watches, who wears watches in the way that Schumi himself did. And we know the circumstances, right? It's been a whole decade after that horrible accident, and he's not coming back. He's not coming back. And I'm sure they're not having a yard sale. I'm sure they're not trying to erase him and his belongings out of existence. I'm sure they have so many wonderful memories and memorabilia preserved of Michael Schumacher to celebrate him as a person and as the kind of legendary driver he is. So they're not going to be missing these watches, and God bless them. You know, if I were in their place, even if it skips a generation, I wouldn't care. I would try to find a way to keep them. But then again, right? Who am I to judge? And who knows what their expenses are? And I'm not talking about lifestyle expenses, right? Which, again, it's no one's business. But more importantly, the kind of medical expenses they have of giving Schumi the best quality of life under his current condition, I'm sure that's not easy. I'm sure that costs a lot of money. So this is the Octa Jour Nuit. This is the Tourbillon Souverain from that set. The chronomètre résonance. The Octa chronograph. And of course, the AP Royal Chrono 25960 BC. That is a pièce unique due to these special details. And a very early example of the Vagabondage, which was just like the Royal Oak chronograph we were looking at, a personal gift from Jean Todt to Schumacher for Christmas, commemorating the 7 championships. Those two are personally inscribed with all these wonderful details that you can read about on my Instagram. And please do follow me on Instagram if you aren't already. The ruthenium collection is all part of a set with matching numbers, 92, as in 1992, the year of his first Grand Prix victory in Belgium. This, by the way, is not something I confirmed. It's my conjecture. Simply, it's my educated guess, but it makes sense. And then we have the Daytona that he clearly wore to bits, because the watch is on a bracelet that's from a much later period, a 78 350 bracelet, and the case back is basically mirror polished, which only happens through a very extended wear. You can see me with my stupid hat and my iPhone trying to film. Hey guys, Patek Chris, nice to see you, man. I like what you got going on there with the 5167 to a football game. Makes sense. Whiskey Reaper, you're the champ. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. And let's get back to our auction coverage. Let's get back to lot 1, actually, which is a limited edition Zenith Revival. This is an El Primero Revival A386. It's depending on how you look at it, this is the kind of watch you would either immediately fall in love with or find somehow gimmicky, right? I think we have already reached peak Fortina, this kind of pseudo vintage look already a couple of years ago, and it seems the fad has somehow died down. But there's still some sort of demand and some interest in having these sorts of watches that are, of course, new out of the box, fresh off the rack, fresh off the shelf, but have this particular effect on their dial, whether it is in the form of kind of a creamy color of luminous material that is used, or which is much more noticeable in this case, tropical finishes on the dial. And in this case, actually, there's a very interesting application of it, I have to admit, because Zenith, to distinguish just a little bit their El Primero chronographs, uses this tricolor scheme for the subdials. And here you see actually there are 3 different shades of brown for the subdials that they chose. And I think that makes it, to me at least, a little more tolerable, because it's more intentional and not with a little bit tongue-in-cheek, right? A little bit less seriously than the usual approach to try to make a watch look like vintage, a revival, as it were, in the name of the model. I know the leather bracelet is quite distinctive and very authentic to this watch, but I absolutely hate it. I don't know. I think it looks, again, it's something that looks gimmicky. It might be just the salty little me who has these hairy wrists, and I just cringe thinking how I would look wearing a watch like this with my hair ridiculously sprouting through each and every link. So it might be just that. But I also just don't like it as a design. Um, get a nice rally style racing strap with perforations. That's much more subtle. That seems much more appropriate to me, at least. This again, combined with the straight end links, it just makes Zenith look like they're trying too hard. But again, that's just me. This is a limited edition from some years back, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 1969 model, with tropical subdials that play with that tricolor scheme using different shades of brown. And the luminous material on the dial also has this cream / eggshell patina look, which adds with the bracelet to this sort of unique appearance. This was actually a collaboration that Zenith did with Phillips auction house, and they made 49 pieces of them. And this is one that comes as a full set, as the first lot in the upcoming Monaco Legend auction. The Zenith El Primero Revival 50th anniversary limited edition in collaboration with Philips, A386. All in stainless steel with the full set of its accessories and with pre-auction estimates set within the range between 7,000 to 14,000 in euro. Oh, I see. It's the blue one. Sorry, I couldn't see in that great detail. So it is the jumbo 5168 with the larger case in white gold. And yeah, that was, speaking of 50th anniversaries, right? That was an anniversary watch. That was the 20th anniversary watch that Patek introduced in 2017 to celebrate milestone for their Aquanaut collection, which was introduced in 1997. It's a beautiful watch. Wear it in great health, and wear it more if you can. Something a little bit more classic without having to try too hard. You're looking at a 18038. This is, as a quick point of reference, if you care about vintage / neo-vintage day dates at all, 1803 is perhaps one of the more commonplace, but still very desirable and very accessible vintage references of the day date. 18038 introduces the quick set with the new movement, which means that the date can be corrected using the crown quickly. 18238 has even the extra upgrade of the double quick set. That is the generation that introduces the double quick sets to the day date, which means, of course, you can correct both the day and the dates quickly with the crown. For that reason, for a lot of people approaching vintage or even neo-vintage day dates from the standpoint of the contemporary, for those who look for the convenience, that probably is the best of both worlds, the reference 18238, which introduces the double quick set. If you have come to any auction preview of this channel, you probably know my take on these precious stone dial or semi-precious stone dial day dates and Datejusts. There are so many collectors who are hell-bent on getting these, on snapping these up, and that certainly plays different games with the auction circuit and even the prominent dealers, right? It's always a very significant premium to get one of these watches on an auction, or even from one of the high-profile vintage watch dealers and on the secondary market. So my suggestion is always save your money, go for the classic models, get one with the champagne dial in the best condition you can afford, with the reference number, with the particular era you're shooting for. Get that and hunt for the dial that you are aspiring to, whether that's a coral dial, a bloodstone, red jade, or like a wood dial. By all means, even the most expensive dials will be a fraction of the premium you will have to pay when it comes to buying a watch like this on a public auction, or even from a high-profile dealer of vintage pieces. And a lot of times, again, Rolex being what it is, for the most part, these kinds of watches don't really come with any sort of documentation that certifies that the watch was in fact born with that dial. But certainly, this is a thing of beauty, and it has the original guarantee papers of the watch, in Japanese, which is kind of cool. From late 80s. The case is nicely preserved. The bracelet is exactly what you would expect from a Rolex watch from this era, of this age. The way it has, of course, stretched and loosened. If these watches have seen any real wear, it's just impossible, right? They will have to see some sort of restoration at a certain day and time. Chances are, unless you find something that has already been, of which the bracelet is already restored, or maybe truly unworn and preserved in new old stock condition, chances are that you will have to take off that bracelet, put it on a nice leather strap for the time being, and send that bracelet to restoration yourself anyways, if you get a day date from 60s, 70s, 80s. That's what you're getting. But this looks amazing. Lot number 7 for a Rolex Day-Date in yellow gold on a matching president bracelet, originally bought in Japan, presented here with its original warranty papers, reference 18038, quick sets, with a pre-auction estimate in the range between 30,000 to 60,000. Patek, Chris, did you ever follow that Philips auction years ago? A day-date thematic one, and they had a bunch of Clapton's day-dates. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I don't remember exactly what year. I don't know what they called it. I have a vague memory. It's called Glamorous Day-Date. Yeah, this is... I'll just drop the link in the chat. This is the day-date auction that Patek Chris was just talking about. Yeah, honestly, again, my rule, which I will never step away from, is do not buy at day dates on a public auction. The day dates they choose are usually the ones with rare dials. For the most part, you don't even know if the watch was born with that dial. They have nothing to prove that, for the most part. And it's a slaughter. I mean, it's a bloody event. It's the premiums that they go for. It's just unconscionable for me. Here's something that's a true aficionado's watch. Of course, when you see something like this from our perspective and minds, trained in the 90s especially, we'll think Frank Muller. But of course, a lot of Frank Muller's designs took their inspiration in the roaring in the roaring 20s from the Art Deco era and beyond. And this is actually a Patek Philippe piece from 1919, right on the verge of the roaring 20s, with a beautiful elliptical railroad track for the minutes at the center of the dial, long signature, Patek, Philippe and Company, Genève, and with stylized exploding Arabic numerals in a curved rectangular case that seems quite beautifully preserved, right? When you look at the engravings on the case back, the signature and the case number still quite crisp. Right? Clearly the watch has seen some polishing in the past, right? But nothing that's made it lose its character. And of course, once again, the dial itself has certainly seen better days, but nothing is really unseemly, right? In terms of the discoloration or certain kinds of damage. It all seems to have the look of patina for the most part. Spade set of hands, blued. Look at that beautiful crown. And one of the great things about this watch, again, that is manufactured in 1919 and sold in 1924, is its dimensions, right? It's relatively oversized for its time, 24 by 42, which makes it a very wearable, almost contemporary dress watch. Again, you're looking at a watch that's more than a century old. You know, manufactured 105 years ago, sold exactly 100 years ago. That's what you call timeless. This is lot number 10 in the upcoming exclusive timepieces auction from Monaco Legends. A curved rectangular watch that belongs properly to the Roaring Twenties in the 21st century, as it did in the 20th century, in yellow gold. .24 by 42 millimeters. It does come with an archival extract from Patek Philippe as well, which is a nice little detail. The estimated value of the piece is somewhere between 10,000 to 20,000 euro. Please hit the like button if you are learning anything from the show. If you are enjoying it, please show your appreciation. It's free and it helps a lot. So I appreciate you. Classic Rolex Daytona follows in lot 6239. It's what they call sometimes a floating dial. At the silver panda style, silvered backgrounds with black chronograph registers, which are radially grooved. Very minimalistic, but it's also the kind of Daytona that encapsulates what's most essential and perhaps timeless about the design. There's a reason that people up until today run after the panda, right? Everyone wants that one more than the black dial one, right? When it comes to the stainless steel model. So there's something said about that, something to be said about that. And again, in and of itself, not a very remarkable watch. Comes naked, comes case only, which is in decent shape, not impeccable, not unpolished, but could be an interesting opportunity to try one's hand on it, because the pre-auction estimate is somewhere between 30,000 to 60,000 in euro. That was lot 11. Thank you, by the way, um, for getting those likes up for me. I really, really do appreciate it. Trust me, it makes a whole deal of difference. I mean, it's hard, guys. It's genuinely hard. Number 13, lot number 13 is one of my favorites of all time. You guys know on this channel, my friend St. Peter and I, we're both big fans of Patek's regulator style annual calendar in the new generation. It is now represented in the catalog by the pink gold model, the reference 5235. And the inspiration for that model, especially in terms of the case design, lies right here. This is an example of that first generation of self-winding perpetual calendars by Patek Philippe. They have what is for their time an oversized case, which gives a lot of good and prominent real estate to the dial, 37 millimeters in diameter, with angular and nicely angled, slanted lugs. In yellow gold, with a pointer date at 6 o'clock that encircles a crescent cutout through which we see the phases of the moon. And above the signature at 12 o'clock, we have the two aperture for the day of the week and the month. The Dauphine hands with the multifaceted baton markers and polished gold beads, which constitutes a pearl track for the minutes. As you can see, it has its original warranty papers, original presentation box, which has this wonderfully quaint elliptical shape. The certificate of origin, of course, is signed by none other than Henri Stern, the grandfather, so to speak, from the standpoint of today's president. Look at how beautiful that piece looks from the profile. Yeah, one of the most beautiful case designs, I think. And it is the one that Italian collectors call the padellone, the big frying pan. This is number 13. Patek Philippe reference 3448, the padellone, first self-winding perpetual calendar by Patek Philippe in yellow gold, with an estimated value between 140,000 to 280,000 in euro. they just yeah, they only have hits. It seems here. That's great. No, honestly, I really like what they're curating, because as I mentioned to you before, last time on Tuesday when we started covering this auction, Monaco Legend Auction House uh, has a watch department that is in collaboration with Claude Cohen, but led by the Parmigianis, right? Davide and Andrea, the father and the son. And obviously, uh, they have had quite a reputation over the years. Of course, nothing. That there always some sort of allegation against the practices, against the examples presented by just about any auctioneer and any prominent dealer. So that's not for me to litigate at this particular point, but the kind of watches that they have been sourcing over the years is of course always very very interesting, very captivating. And when it comes to the stalwarts, the classics like this, there's very you know, very little that you can say to judge the kind of examples, the kind of watches that they bring to the table. This is a kind of Rolex chronograph that is easily grouped as the pre-Daytona, right? In the sense that these were the chronographs that Rolex made in the decade, let's say, before they, um, in the 60s, before they switched to the Daytona. So, in many ways, these are the predecessors. But it's something of an unfair, I think, characterization, because these watches themselves have a lot of character that's quite different than the Daytona, and that deserves its own attention, of course. And I mean, most importantly, they're just simply more rare, right? They might not be as desirable by the mainstream market. They don't have to be something that everyone else goes after. But relatively speaking, right, there's a lot of value in this kind of watch if you want a great Rolex chronograph, and if you actually perhaps even prefer these the design of these watches, which are more of that classic ilk, rather than the sportier and perhaps therefore more contemporary feel of the Daytona chronographs. This is an example of 6238 with a silver dial. Of course, the majority of the, pardon me, examples, as is often the case, were produced in stainless steel. So it is a treat always to see a yellow gold example. And a yellow gold example like this, which has a very beautiful case. Right. Again, it's a case that's not necessarily unpolished, but very, very well preserved. A gift, it seems, to one Richard Goodman from his parents. In 18 karat yellow gold with the Valjoux 722 hand wound movements. and with a matching Rolex gold buckle with that coronet presented on a leather strap. This is an example of a Rolex pre-Daytona chronograph, hand-wound chronograph in 18-karat yellow gold, reference 6238, with a pre-auction estimate set within the range between 70,000 to 140,000 euro. I agree, Ace is full, and it's nice to see you again. Thank you. You see, I make the right investment. I got some water again, so I can stay hydrated while I cover these auctions for you. So I appreciate it. Smooth bezel with the tachymeter on the perimeter of the dial is very tasteful, in my opinion. Right. Yeah, it's a different look. It's a different feel. And you know, by all means, right? The Daytona clearly had more of a staying power, especially when it comes to Rolex's universe. But there's some very beautiful examples of the so-called pre-Daytona chronographs that you would ignore at your peril. Lot number 21 is a very interesting example of a special watch. The Explorer 2, I think, was in many ways a very outrageous piece for Rolex to be releasing in early 70s, in 1971, to be specific. They had come up with this particular piece with a fixed 24-hour bezel in matching stainless steel, and with an additional hour hand that practically served as a day-night indicator, right? Because it gives you the AM, PM, the day-night distinction, precisely because these pieces were made for spelunking, right? Where when you're deep in a cave, and that's not a euphemism for something else, uh, you don't necessarily have the devices, have the wherewithal to tell whether it's day and night, which means that you can then, at a quick glance on your wrist, know whether it is 10:10 in the morning or 22:10 at night. It's a good way to make that distinction. Of course, nowadays this essentially becomes the Explorer 2 within today's lineup essentially becomes another GMT watch, but at its point of origin, with its fixed bezel, it had this distinction from GMT, let's say, and from the GMT master. And as you can see, the dial itself also has the luminous marks arranged in such a way where you have one corresponding to each hour, right? 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they are alternating, which makes it easy to read. Of course, one of the most emblematic things about these watches, the reference 1655, the first Rolex Explorer 2, is the charismatic, characteristic, distinctive 24-hour hands, large arrow with a pointy tip, which made the Italian collectors give it the nickname Freccione. The watch is also called Steve McQueen, although there's no proof at all that Steve McQueen had one of these watches in his collection, or no connection at all to Steve McQueen, actually, except who wore, by the way, mostly Rolex Submariners, almost to the point of exclusivity, except for the set of Le Mans, of course, for the filming of Le Mans, the movie, where he wears Hoya Monaco. But the rumor about that is basically in the 70s, Steve McQueen was the king of cool. This watch was a cool watch, so someone just called it that way, and it stuck. So to this day, you can still hear these early examples of the Explorer 2 called a Steve McQueen. This particular example comes with the Tiffany co-signature at 6 o'clock. The case back is engraved also Christmas Eve in 1977 and 78. I'm not an expert when it comes to Tiffany fonts, both in terms of the signature and in the case engravings. But as far as I can tell, as far as what I've learned over the years, both the font on the dial and on the engravings seem to check out. Again, I'm not an expert in that particular subject, and pictures is all I have, so I can't give a final verdict on that. But it seems authentic, and the reason I'm saying that even is because there's just no other way, no other documentation or anything that certifies that provenance that follows the watch. So that's what we have to go by. This is lot 21 for a Rolex Explorer 2, reference 1655. That's also known as Freccione. With an estimated value between 20,000 to 40,000 US dollars. I don't know why I keep saying US dollars. My bad. Euro. '22 is a great example as well. This is another Rolex chronograph. One that is even more out of sync with the times, you might say. But nevertheless, a Rolex chronograph that has a lot of its original charisma. Reference 3055. You're looking at the so-called Piccolino, because due to its compact dimensions, because the case diameter is only 30 millimeters, it remains the smallest chronograph that Rolex has ever made, with the Valjoux caliber 69. And wearing this watch puts you in a very exclusive company that includes Enzo Ferrari, photographed here with Phil Hill, the only American-born driver to have won the F1 World Drivers' Championships. Of course, Mario Andretti won the Drivers' Championship as well. And even though he was an American, he was born in Italy. And there's another picture of Enzo Ferrari wearing his Piccolino, reference 3055, which probably looked something like this. And here is a modern gentleman, Adam Victor, actually, who happens to be a managing partner at Monaco Legend Group USA, who wears a stainless steel version of the Piccolino on a regular basis. So amazing, amazing piece. And that's how we started, because we were looking at lot 22 of the upcoming Monaco Legends auction. And you can see, right? Enzo Ferrari wearing the watch, wearing the yellow gold watch next to Phil Hill. And here is Piero Ferrari, who wears his father's piece. This particular one that is being sold on the auction as lot 22 is in pink gold. Which is reported to be the rarest. I mean, the yellow gold one is rare enough, right? It was apparently about 200 examples produced, whereas the pink gold is said to have been produced only in 20 examples, or about 20 examples. And this particular version honestly seems incredibly well preserved. Again, the dial is not impeccable, but my personal opinion is that one should prefer a dial like this rather than something that has been, refinished, with its originality destroyed in the process. I would rather have something authentic and patinated than something that's been refreshed, especially refreshed by, you know, refreshed by someone who doesn't belong to that company, who doesn't operate with the blessing of Rolex or Patek or whatever else. The case is very nicely preserved as well for its age. This is the Rolex Piccolino, reference 3055 at lot 22, with a pre-auction estimate set within the range between 8,000 to 16,000 euro. I'm going to take a quick break. Again, I'm sending the link to the auction in the chats. Feel free to browse it at your own pace. Feel free to take a closer look at any of the pieces. And if you send me the lot number, I would do a deep dive with lots of historical and horological detail for you. You're looking right now at the watch that I shared in my thumbnail, which is a stainless steel example of Vacheron Constantin's 222, which is living a new resurgence now, ever since it was re-released in 2022 as part of Vacheron Constantin's Historique series. Please don't forget to hit the like button. And if you would like to contribute, of course, YouTube has a number of options, and I provide other links in the video description as well. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and we are covering today, we are continuing to cover the Monaco Legend auction that is coming up in about 3 weeks in Monte Carlo, with previews arranged also in Milan, apparently. And this is lot 24 for an example of Vacheron Constantin 222 in stainless steel. Now, Vacheron Constantin's 222, from that trilogy of integrated bracelet designs from the three elite Swiss watchmakers that are sometimes called the Holy Trinity, has always remained in the shadow of its more popular cousins, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and the Patek Philippe Nautilus. That we can explain that in so many different ways, and I don't want to really go into that whole digression. I think it has something to do, at least in part, with the fact that it is not Gérard Genta design, which seems a very arbitrary and cruel way of excluding it from the group. But you know, when it comes to watches, a lot of decisions people make on the individual level and on the collective level are actually very emotional and not rational at all, which again I just say as a statement of fact and not really as a value judgment at all. So because the 222 was not really popular and did not live this resurgence until after, in fact, Vacheron Constantin took what was perhaps their rightful place within that trilogy with the third generation of overseas. They were also produced in very limited numbers. So there were about 500 examples in steel, 100 in gold, and 120 in two-tone, roughly, right? Which, by the way, it only stayed in production for what is it, for about 8 years, right? 222 refers, of course, to Vacheron Constantin's anniversary year, right? The company being the longest continuously operating, the oldest continuously operating watchmaker in the world, was founded in 1755, and the 222 as a design was to commemorate that particular anniversary. So you're looking at a watch that is technically one of 500 examples designed by Jörg Haschek with its distinctive honeycomb style H-link bracelet that is integrated to the tonneau-shaped case. I actually kind of like the bezel of this particular watch, especially over and against the overseas bezel with those notches. In the square version, of course, I like calling it the postal stamp bezel, but I guess here too you can play around with that name. And of course, beyond that loose identification as part of the Holy Trinity, this watch actually has a lot that it shares with the Nautilus and with the Royal Oak before it, because the bracelets were made by the same maker. Gefrère made the integrated bracelets for Royal Oak, the Nautilus, and the 222, and all three watches were powered by a movement that had at its base the JLC 920, the ultra-thin self-winding movements with a full rotor. This particular example seems quite well preserved, comes with its original box and papers and its hang tag. And the pre-auction estimates puts the value of the watch between 20,000 to 40,000 in euro. Let's go for something out of the left field, something much less much less predictable. Parmigiani Fleurier, I think, has been making the news more recently, not necessarily for the right reasons, because it is up for sale, right? Sandoz Foundation finally seems to be willing to move on from this project that they started with Michel Parmigiani. You know, after 28 years, I think they had started in 1996, I want to say. This is one of those Parmigiani Fleurier watches that represents the glamorous and unique vision of Michel Parmigiani as a watchmaker. First of all, you're looking at a minute repeater with a beautiful black guilloche dial housed in a 40 millimeter pink gold toric case. This is one of the most gorgeous black dials that I've ever seen, precisely because it has that unique and very fine barleycorn or crème d'orge pattern that's distinctive to Parmigiani Fleurier as a maker. Two Piguet numerals at 12 and 6 o'clock with the plaque logo of Parmigiani Fleurier counterbalancing the subdial for seconds at 9 o'clock. The bezel is, in this case, very unique because, you know, the toric cases usually have fluted bezels, sometimes one, sometimes a double stepped, both fluted, both have that fine coin edging. In this case, you have baguette cut diamonds. And those javelin style hands. A sapphire cabochon tops off the crown. And there's a slider on the left flank that operates the chiming functions of the watch. Beautifully arching, subtle teardrop style lugs. And here's a good look at the movements, of course, with those beautifully black polished stainless steel hammers. Let's strike the gong. This is lot 27 for Parmigiani Fleurier toric minute repeater, housed in a 40mm pink gold case with a baguette cut diamond set bezel and a stunning black guilloche dial. The piece, as you saw, comes as a full set, comes with the full set of its accessories, and it has a pre-auction estimate that is set between 40,000 to 80,000 euro. Very interesting piece here. This is lot 26 for an Omega Seamaster with the broad arrow hands and center sweep seconds, Arabic numerals at the quarter. This seems to be a mil-spec piece, a military-issued piece made for the Pakistani Air Force. Again, the case is certainly not in an unpolished condition, but it's generally well preserved. The dial has seen better days, but it has at least uniformly patinated. And overall, you have an interesting piece of history in your hands, coming from mid-60s, roughly. This is an Omega Seamaster issued to the Pakistani Air Force, presumably from year 1964. With an estimated value of 6,000 to 12,000 in euro. A very beautiful triple calendar moon phase piece from Rolex at lot 35. This is a reference 6062. It's a watch that has been cataloged, published in Rolex Collecting Modern and Vintage Watches, Volume 1 by Osvaldo Patrizi. It was sold sold on auction on May 13th, 2006 for 164,000 Swiss francs. That was an auction called the Mondani collection of Rolex wristwatches. So you can see this has gone through the hands of a number of Italian experts, dealers, auctioneers, whatever you want to say. Rolex's main reputation, as you know, does not really rest on making these kinds of watches, these kinds of complications, whether we are talking about the triple dates, the full calendar, or a triple date and chronograph. Here, a triple date with moon phase. This is reference 6062. Only another reference, 8171, has this kind of combination, meaning the triple dates and the moon phase indicator. This particular example is in yellow gold. And the dial has kind of a light honey colored patina. With those conical shapes for most of the hour markers that make collectors call this piece a pyramid dial, call this particular variation a pyramid dial. Dauphine hands inlaid with luminous material that has long since expired, of course. A moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock that's surrounded by the seconds. And in addition to the two openings at 12 o'clock, of course, the pointer date shows the dates around the perimeter of the dial. This is a piece from 1952, roughly speaking. Reference 6062 in a very well-preserved condition with a distinctive patina on its dial. A Rolex triple calendar with an indicator for the phases of the moon, with a presentation box as you can see pictured here. Lot 35 has a pre-auction estimate set in the range between 600,000 to 1.2 million euro. Coming initially from Guido Mondani's collection, sold almost 20 years ago for 164,000 Swiss francs. Here is a Day-Date with an interesting dial, this time not the kind of rarity and preciousness that we were talking when it comes to the semi-precious stone dials or the rare wood dials. But this piece has a kind of tropicalized brown dial that gave it a very distinctive aesthetic, an almost maroon color, like brown with almost a tinge of burgundy. I do apologize. I have a little bit of a back pain tonight that doesn't seem to go away for days now. So my apologies if I seem like I'm fidgeting and moving around a little more than usual. As you can see, the case is very well preserved with the hallmarks intact. Of course, as you see from the removal of possibly a bracelet, but certainly different kinds of straps, you have a lot of scratches on the lugs, which is completely acceptable, entirely predictable from a watch of this age, this kind of provenance. We're talking about an early 70s piece, a reference 1803, as I was talking about before. 1803 is one of those reference numbers by Rolex that had an extensive period of production, I think 2 full decades, somewhere like 58 to 1978. Very similar in that case to a model like 5513 or 1675, right, where you have a lot of different kinds of pieces, even though it is the same reference number. This comes towards the tail end of that era. The original black dial has turned into this textured, again, maroon color, somewhere between burgundy and brown. English calendar with a classic yellow gold case with a fluted bezel. This is lot 39 for Rolex Day-Date reference 1803, presented on a leather strap. The piece has an estimated value of 7,000 to 14,000 euro. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. It really, really does help. Makes all the difference for a smaller channel like this, I would like to remind you that this channel operates completely independently of the industry. So I'm not on the payroll of any major brands. I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm not sponsored or otherwise supported by any of these auction houses, which I try to cover as objectively as I can, always showing you alternatives, always suggesting that you arm yourself with knowledge, that you, if possible, attend previews or send someone, whether it's an expert like me or a friend, to see these watches for you. And ultimately, that I can speak so freely, that I can criticize anyone when I want, and that I can ultimately guide you to get the best value for your money at retail and on the secondary markets, also means that I am at your behest, that this channel survives and thrives with your contributions. So if you would like to contribute, YouTube offers you a lot of options. Of course, the memberships give you access to exclusive content, which is a growing archive where I go very deep on particular kinds of models, complications, grouping them together by 3 or 4 different watches, both giving you pointers to deals on the markets that might be more time specific, if not necessarily time sensitive, but certainly arming you with a lot of interesting information in the process. And if you want to contribute in some other way, of course, the links are in the video description. Most importantly, though, again, your support and presence is very important to me. And if you can hit the like button, and better yet, share the link to the channel, to some of the shorter videos, perhaps, that will help us expand the community that we are trying to build, that comes only together around knowledge of and passion for wristwatches. I really appreciate you again coming back to our auction. We looked earlier at another Panda, right, a 6239 at lot 11. This is something a little more muscular, you might say. At lot 41, we're looking at a later Daytona, something that comes from our very own Aussie expats' birth year from 1985, powered by the updated Valjoux 727 caliber, a Rolex Oyster chronograph, Oyster Cosmograph Daytona, with the screw down pushers, which enhance the waterproofness of the watch. This particular reference matches that Oyster case and screw down pushers in stainless steel with stainless steel bezel with a tachometer scale. And this particular example is presented on an Oyster bracelet as well. The piece comes with its warranty papers, an additional link for the bracelet, as well as the box, the leather wallet to hold the documents, as well as the outer box, outer packaging for the box. Silver sunburst background with black chronograph registers and the big Daytona writing in red above the 12-hour counter at 6, which gives this particular watch its nickname, the Big Red. Right? This Big Red Panda, reference 6265, Rolex Cosmograph Daytona, that also happens to come with its box and papers, is lot 41 of the exclusive Timepieces auction by Monaco Legends. And the pre-auction estimate of the watch is set between 60,000 to 120,000 euro. Um, give me 1 second. Oh, okay. Sorry guys, I forgot to post the link on Twitter. I don't know how much I actually get from Twitter in the way of new subscribers, but I still put it out there, hoping that I would get an extra hit or two. Again, small things make a big difference at the end. I believe in that. I have to believe in that. While we are at it, let's talk another Daytona. Of course, there are a few very interesting watches that I love and that I don't just want to skip over, but this is probably one of those absolute heavy hitters. When it comes to the Rolex Daytona, of course, you might say a Paul Newman dial is the king. You may or may not disagree. The market values them quite highly, and especially when they are in yellow gold like this, with here the so-called Paul Newman lemon dial, kind of with that champagne background, black registers, right? That yellowish champagne background, black chronograph registers with those Art Deco stylized numerals, with that black seconds track. A lot of these details that give a beautiful dimensionality to the dial, and the combination of pump pushers and the plastic bezel for the tachymeter scale makes this particular piece both a very, very fascinating piece. It is presented here on a leather strap with a matching gold Rolex tank buckle with the coronet. It also happens to come with a Rolex presentation box. And apparently this comes from the private collection of Renato della Valle, who is a famous Italian businessman who has served as the CEO of Giorgio Armani in the late 70s, apparently, among other positions. So these pictures commemorate that connection. This is the Rolex Cosmograph Daytona, reference 6241, with the lemon Paul Newman dial in 18-karat yellow gold. As I mentioned, that reference number makes it a combination of pump pushers and plastic bezel inserts with a tachymeter scale. The estimated value of the watch is $600,000 to $1.2 million. I also wanted to take a look at these two pieces. One, a Calatrava style dress watch from Audemars Piguet, and the other one in the neighboring lots for Vacheron Constantin tank. This is lot 42, a classic dress watch from Audemars Piguet, which comes from what is presumably its original presentation box. The case again is not in an impeccable, unpolished shape, but it's retained largely its original contours. There's a beautiful domed crystal which reflects that time period. It is a 50s watch after all. At 34 millimeters, it's not too diminutive. It can still be worn as, I think, a very discreet and interesting yellow gold piece, as a dress watch. Silver dial, very elegant, thin, supple hands, sweep center seconds, which are combined with obus-shaped index markers for the hours. The yellow gold case has oxidized beautifully, I would say. That's my opinion, at least, giving it a warm color. And this piece is estimated to be valued in the region of 12,000 to 24,000 euro. Lot 43 is the stunning Vacheron Constantin tank-styled watch. It's a piece with a stunning blue dial and in white gold with a Florentine style decoration. Very beautiful, 25 by 32. So it's a small watch, but certainly something that is very elegant, very sleek and supple. Look at that unique finish, right? You know, it does, in pictures, it might seem like hatch grain that you would see on certain kinds of leather. Very subtle, but from different angles, you can see how much it really adds to the sensory perception of um, of the timepiece, right? In white gold with that finish, it's really amazing. This is lot 6840 for a tank style watch made by Vacheron Constantin, hand-wound movements, very sleek, very elegant, in white gold with the matching Vacheron Constantin pin buckle that evokes the Maltese cross that is the symbol of the brand. Stunning blue sunburst style that gives the watch a very vibrant and attractive look, almost contemporary in a way. And honestly, it's if this possibly goes for anything close to its estimated value, it would be an absolute bargain. Reference 6840 at lot 43 of exclusive timepieces Monaco Legend auction. $4,000 to $8,000 is its estimated value. Speaking of another bargain, another watch that brings a lot of value to the table, you're looking at the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Control Perpetual Calendar. Stainless steel case with a black dial. .37 millimeters in diameter, so it's both discreet but also with the kind of wrist presence and legibility that this sort of complication almost demands. an exhibition case back, which includes a partially skeletonized rotor with that's 22 carats gold additional rotor weights. Again, beautifully sleek, very interesting, and accessible piece with a French calendar. Dauphine hands, partially skeletonized and inlaid with luminous material. There's a day-night indicator that is very discreetly placed right above the hand stack. Moon phase through a cutout, crescent-like cutout at 6 o'clock. The days of the week are shown on a subdial at 3 o'clock. A pointer date is situated at 9 o'clock, and there is even a 2-digit expression of the year that is lodged in the subdial at 12 o'clock, which otherwise shows the month. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Control Perpetual Calendar in stainless steel, 37 millimeters in diameter, and with a black dial, with the moon phase indicator and the day and night indicator as well. At lot 50, we have a vintage Submariner with a tropical dial, and people have sometimes said that the origin of the root beer dials were these sorts of tropicalized black dials. I'm not so sure about that. I think it's an interesting story. It sounds cool. But you can at least see from a dial patinated like this, from a dial that has aged in this particular way, how people and why people came up with that story. This piece comes with a lot of the original documentation that surrounded it, most important of which is, of course, the original warranty papers. And I believe what is also the original receipts. It has the matching anchor that was offered as part of the sets at that point with the purchase of a watch like this. This is the original 4-digit reference, by the way, 1680/8. The piece comes from around 1973. And it has a nipple dial. and the bezel has this navy color. The case back is engraved with three initials, with someone's initials. And it is otherwise very well preserved indeed. The watch also comes on the matching bracelets, which is a great boon for lot 50 for a gold sub, a Rolex Submariner, reference 1680/8, with its original papers and receipts, as well as that anchor accessory. The pre-auction estimates for the watch is set between 50,000 to 100,000 in euro. Please hit the like button if you haven't already, and feel free to subscribe if you're just chancing upon this live stream. I have watch-related videos on a daily basis, watch-related content on a daily basis. If you aren't following me on Instagram just yet, please feel free to follow me there as well. And if you could send the link around, share some of the videos, I would really appreciate that. That would help me expand the community and grow the channel, and that, as you know, always gets reflected along with your contributions in the quality and quantity of content on the channel. So if you help me out, you'll always see something back from me. We're looking at Datejust that is made in white gold, which is not something you see often. Precious metal, Datejusts crafted fully in precious metal are rare, and those that are crafted in white gold are even rarer. Sometimes you might say it's yellow gold, pink gold. Yes, you can find them. They're still quite rare, but it's not every day that you see a Datejust crafted in white gold. This is 1601, reference number 1601, with the doorstop dial, those distinctive index markers at the quarters at 6 and 9 to be more specific. Alpha hands inlaid with luminous material. The black pipe hand dial also has those luminous pips behind the hour markers. The coronets at 12 o'clock, of course, and under the Cyclops magnifier at 3 o'clock, you have the dates window. Of course, the white gold case is matched with a fluted bezel in white gold, which is usually a point of contrast, as you can see on my piece here, with the stainless steel appearance of the piece. And the dial in this case is a black dial that has achieved a certain burgundy brownish hue. This is lot 51 for vintage Rolex Datejust in white gold, presented on a leather strap with a Rolex buckle. The estimated value of the watch is somewhere between 16,000 to 32,000 euro. At lot 56, we have the original Patek Philippe Nautilus Jumbo, the reference 3700s Nautilus, as it was designed, as it was intended by the maestro, by Gérard Jantin, quite early in the production cycle as well. This piece comes from year 1978, manufactured in 78, sold in 79. Presented here on the archival extract. Apparently, this piece has a service dial. Just to put it out there, so it's not all original. And certainly this is something you can discern from even the fonts used on the dial in the signature. But also even from the Swiss only writing at 6 o'clock. Original Patek Philippe Nautilus Jumbo with a service dial, presented here on its archival extracts. The piece has an estimated value between 60,000 to 120,000 in euro. Pardon me. At lots 60, we have perhaps underrated, perhaps rightly forgotten, stainless steel integrated bracelet classic from Patek, from the Patek of the 90s. This is the Neptune moon phase, the reference 5085 line 1A, the integrated bracelet, stainless steel watch with the asymmetric dial, without which the 5712, the Nautilus moon phase, couldn't be imagined. This particular example apparently comes from 2006, which incidentally is the time when the 3712 was only released last year and was about to be replaced by 5712, the Nautilus moon phase, which is powered by the same movements and has a very similar dial aesthetic to this watch. I've always been a big fan of the bracelets, of the integration of the bracelets. I mean, the style of the bracelet, which is like some sort of reptilian inspiration, like snakeskin, you might say, rendered, of course, here in metal, in stainless steel. I like the way it flows with the case design, even though I think it can be removed in each instance, as you can see here, and um, replaced with a leather strap to fit it, which is always an option. It's a beautiful micro rotor movement powered by a beautiful micro rotor movement that comes from the lineage of caliber 240, designed by Gérard Perret, whom Patek Philippe recruited from Universal Genève. And this micro rotor movement was perhaps one of his biggest legacies in the firm. Of course, being a pre-2009 movement, this one carries on its bridge the hallmark of Geneva, which I would still prize myself. I'm not a huge fan of the font used for the hour markers on the dial. Perhaps that's just me. Perhaps that's part of the reason why the market, why the collectors don't necessarily run towards this watch en masse in hordes. But I think overall it's a very interesting design. If you like asymmetric dials, if you collect integrated bracelets, stainless steel Patek Philippe watches, this can be a very interesting value proposition. And certainly this particular example, coming with the full set of its accessories, is quite compelling in and of itself. The micro rotor movement is always a delight for me. And that is lot number 60 for a Patek Philippe Neptune moon phase, reference 5085, line 1A, stainless steel on the integrated bracelet with the asymmetric dial. A forgotten classic of the 90s, a predecessor of the Nautilus moon phase in its both iterations, 3712 and 5712. The piece has a pre-auction estimate of 10,000 to 20,000 euro. We have another one of these watches. You guys remember, for one reason or another, we talked quite a bit about these watches that seem to be personal and custom orders by the now deceased Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. I have seen a number of Grande Ellipses from Patek Philippe that have been already sold in the auction circuit and that I covered on my Instagram. So if you want to snoop, feel free. I'll send the link, not the direct link, but the link to my Instagram profile. I have less than 30 minutes left on this broadcast, so I don't want to spend an enormous amount of time on this watch, especially because we talked a lot about Gaddafi in the last few live streams, more than I would ever like, to be brutally honest with you. I've also covered a Vacheron Constantin dress watch that similarly has a quote from his speeches from his green book. That watch is on an in Eichen Zurich auction that is still going on and that is about to conclude on April 2. Oh my, it's interesting. Is it removed from that auction? It's removed from that auction. Wow. Wow. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah, because we had covered that. It was part of this time capsule auction. As you can see, it's gone. It was number 10, 9, and 11. 9, 11. Number 10 has disappeared, and it's funny because even if it were bought with the fixed price, it would have just noted that, right? Because let's see, a watch that's already been sold, perhaps with the fixed price. Okay, we can't confirm for sure now our theory because of that. I think that's exactly what happened because it is missing and there's no other announcement or remark that it was already sold or something. Very interesting. The plot thickens, but we come back to the exclusive timepieces auction by Monaco Legends that we're covering right now, where we have another one of these Tiffany blue dial, Tiffany blue before the name, that were special orders by Muammar Gaddafi, the now deceased dictator of Libya. This watch is styled like a cocktail watch, a dress watch with disco volante, perfectly round case on an integrated bracelets, in a way that the finishing of the bracelets is also complementary to the finishing of the bezel of this timepiece. Very sleek and beautiful. Comes with an archival extract that notes the special dial. I wonder if they noted the length of the bracelets. It doesn't look like it, which is very important. I just want to mention that because when it comes to these sorts of integrated bracelet vintage watches, especially when it's in precious metal, the length of the bracelet is really important because it's difficult to extend them. You have to work with really expert jewelers who know what they're doing, and even then, such extensions that are devised might not be imperceptible, might not be perfect. For those with smaller wrists, by all means, it's very interesting. They will still be still you still have to cut them down to size, so that's something to keep in mind. But if you can find a nice fit when it comes to pieces like this, it's always worth exploring as a genre, not necessarily this particular watch. But this is one of those Patek Philippe and also Vacheron Constantin watches that were special orders by Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. This particular Patek cocktail watch is reference 3606 line 3, with a pre-auction estimate set within the range between 30,000 to 60,000 euro. At lot 65, we're looking at another rectangular curved Patek Philippe watch. Another example of those roaring 20s timepieces that we have been looking at, like the Patek watch at lot 10. This one is not as oversized, right? The other one, I think it was 24 by 42. This one is 23 by 38, but it is very exquisite. First of all, it is crafted in platinum, has those distinctive spade hands like its cousin at lot 10, but in this case, those are matched with applied Piguet numerals, which so many might actually prefer. Railroad track for the minutes on the perimeter on the of the dial. Again, that beautifully curved, almost centrally curved rectangular case, crafted here in platinum. Previously polished, but hopefully not too enthusiastically, as you can still make out that hallmark. Accompanied by an archival extract. Interestingly, it mentions that the watch was made in 1928, sold in March 12th, 1929, and that the case was replaced in service in 1938. Very interesting little detail there. This is lot number 65 for a Patek Philippe classic from the Roaring 20s, crafted in platinum, rectangular and curved, 23 by 38 millimeters. An archival extract is provided with a pre-auction estimate in the range between 18,000 to 36,000 euro. We have another beautiful Royal Oak perpetual calendar. In the first session of our coverage on the live stream from Tuesday, of course, we looked at lot 32, which was reference 25820 in stainless steel, with that distinctive blue dial that is likened to the particular shade of blue that the French painter from Nice, Yves Klein, used in his paintings, in his monochromatic paintings specifically. This particular piece is of more recent origin, a reference 25636 BA in yellow gold with an open work dial. It's a reference that still uses the 39mm case and comes up with also a very thin watch using the base of that JLC 920 movements with the perpetual calendar module. As you can see, the piece has an open work dial, which is of course a complete joy the more complicated the watch gets, especially when it comes to this kind of a complication, this kind of prestige complication, such as the perpetual calendar. And of course, on the back too, you see a beautifully skeletonized movement with engraved details, which includes the open worked oscillating weight with its supplemental 21 carats weights as well. As you can see, when it comes to these sorts of rare watches that are executed in limited series, it has a specific number inscribed there on the case back at around 12 o'clock. And as you can see, the piece comes with the winding box and the archival extract. Hey, Dark Child. That was not a reverso. That was vintage Patek with simply a rectangular shape. But lot 66 that we were looking at, which was yellow gold Audemars Piguet Royal Oak perpetual calendar with an open worked dial, about 10 years old, coming as it does with a winding box and an archival extract, reference 25636 BA, has an estimated value between 100,000 to 200,000 euro. Speaking of open worked pieces, here is an interesting example, once again from Audemars Piguet. By the way, this is not a coincidence because Audemars Piguet, over its history, really has a reputation for skeletonization, for the open working of their movements. And 15305 is a little bit of an oddball here, to be honest. 15300s was an interesting Royal Oak reference because it's had the same diameter as the Jumbo at 39 millimeters, but of course it had a different movement than the original JLC based movement. So not as sleek, not as thin, but something, and also of course not as loyal to the design origins of the watch, but nevertheless something that appealed to the enthusiasts still. And 15305 is basically the open worked version of this. And of course, 15302 had a sweep center seconds hand, which the Jumbo does not. That could have been also the reason that some people went for that. Once again, as you can see, this is a watch that is in a pretty decent condition, that comes with its box and papers. Lot number 69 with a pre-auction estimate between 80,000 to 160,000 euro. Now I have a little more than 10 minutes maybe. So I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support and presence. Please share the link. Please invite friends, collectors, other watch enthusiasts to the channel. Send links to the other videos, the shorter ones especially, that could be an easier way of catching their attention. And if you could help me in this way to grow my channel, I'll be forever grateful to you. I mean it. Every single person matters. It makes a lot of difference for me. And you know how these things grow and catch on. So I really appreciate your help when it comes to that. Again, this is a channel that is fully in the service of its audience, that is not in the pocket of gray market profiteers, that does not, none of the industry brands dole out cash to me or offer all other sorts of gifts or favors. So I would cover them. So I would say something nice. So I would say everything is absolutely stunning. But hey, all of this also means that this channel survives and thrives with your help, with your contributions. So if you would like to do that, YouTube has a number of options. The memberships, of course, are also available, and they provide access to exclusive content, which is an ever-growing archive. And if you would like to contribute in other ways, I provide some links in the video description as well. In either case, thank you for considering it at all. At lot 77, we're looking at Cartier Pasha perpetual calendar. Of course, the Cartier Pasha is a mid-80s design that has Jarrajanta's fingerprints all over it. Of course, you can see that perhaps even more clearly in the in the perpetual calendar version, because that looks aesthetically very similar to perpetual calendars that Jarrajanta produced under his own brands, most distinctively perhaps from the background of the moon phase, which is lapis lazuli. This version, housed in a 38 millimeter case, yellow gold case, I think encapsulates a lot of the appeal of the Pasha as a watch that brings together sporty elements with the dressy elegance of a Cartier piece. You have a sapphire cabochon on that canteen style crown guards, which you have to screw open to actually set the time. Roman numerals are used here rather than Jarrajanta's original design for this model with the oversized Arabic numerals. There's a moon phase at 12 o'clock, which really puts that romantic complication at the center of the watch's aesthetic, which I always appreciate. The sweep center seconds in combination with the lozenge-shaped hands generously inlaid with luminous material give the watch an added sporty vibe. And those hands, in addition with calendrical indications, are fashioned out of stainless steel and heat blued, which is a beautiful, beautiful little detail. And there's even a leap year indicator lodged in to the subdial at 3 o'clock, which is for the month. The pointer date is at 6 o'clock, and the weekday is shown at 9 o'clock. What a beautiful piece. I really always like, you know, a Santos can look great on a bracelet too, on a matching bracelet, don't take me wrong. I think especially with stainless steel, it's good to have the option. You guys know I have all sorts of hesitations and personal hangups with precious metal watches, with matching precious metal bracelets, but that's just me, and that's a conversation for another day. But I think the elegance and distinction of the Vendome lugs, these T-bar lugs of the case, really come out, really come through when it's paired with a leather strap. And here the choice, I think, is beautiful in the sense that they have used navy color strap, which coordinates so beautifully with all the other blue accents of the watch. By the way, with this sort of watch, with exactly this kind of yellow gold Cartier Pasha perpetual calendar, you would be in great company because this was Valentino Garavani, the Italian designer with the eponymous brand, wore a watch exactly like this. I think I've covered it on my Instagram before. Trying to find it. If I can bring it up almost instantly, I will share. Otherwise, I don't want to, I don't want to waste time endlessly at the end of the show, where I can share with you a few other watches, couple at least. Yeah, again, it's an opportunity for you to snoop. I certainly have it on my account, so I'm just gonna send a link to my account on Instagram, so you can follow me and also see if you like a few posts, including Valentino's Cartier Pasha perpetual calendar, which you might find there. As it happens, this one actually comes with its box and papers. The reference is W30026. The piece is from 1991. Once again, it is housed in a yellow gold case, 38 millimeters in diameter. This very beautiful and complicated iteration of Gérard Janta's lesser known but widely appreciated design, Cartier Pasha. The estimated value of the piece is somewhere between 12,000 to 24,000 euro. Professor.
Good morning.
Good morning. We'll have to talk in the background a little bit. I think I was about to close the show. But
okay.
but we can do this. I will pull up this platinum Day-Date.
Platinum.
And maybe you can talk about it a little bit while I take a quick break, and maybe that can give me a second wind.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah, let's try
sure.
it.
Oh. What shall I say? Hello? Hello? Mm.
What happened, Professor?
Oh, what do you want me to say?
Something.
Oh, something. Okay. Hello. Hello, everybody. This is
I can't
Professor.
believe you. I can't believe you just gave that dead air to the audience.
Oh, I thought you were going to disappear and I was supposed to wait, and say nothing. I don't know what to say about this watch.
Well, when I said say something, you understood that as say nothing. I don't get that at all.
Uh, you
How
know,
does that make any sense?
But no, I couldn't say anything. I mean, it looks nice. If you have the money, please buy it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is I think in the current age, of course, where they do the fluted bezel as well, they have all these ice blue dials and all sorts of fancy options.
Mm,
It's of course the platinum day date has an interesting attraction, but there's something interesting. There's something intriguing. There's something fascinating about these like vintage versions of it. I mean, vintage as in, in this case, this is a watch from 21st
mm,
century. It's 2001, but it still has that air, like the neo vintage perhaps. Uh it looks older but not necessarily dated. um I like it. I like that black dial combined with the gem setting, which again makes it a little bit different from your average day dates, from your average white gold day date too, especially with the domed bezel.
mm. The only problem with the older day dates in white gold, as you know, is that over time the coloration changes from kind of white to kind of yellowish
Right.
because of the mixture, which I think was addressed
Yeah, and
later on.
I mean, that's not only a Rolex problem, of course. That's kind of, you know,
Industry-wide.
whether
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, you can name it differently, but that's either the charm or the deficiency of older generation alloys when it comes to a yellow gold too, right? Yellow gold oxidizes and patinates over time. Uh, it's really the same, but yes, with white gold you probably want that distinct ness from yellow gold, which you can't get if it's gonna yellow out over time. But this one is in platinum, so you don't have that problem with this particular example. This is one, what is it, 118206.
Mm.
So it's a platinum
Well,
with a
supposedly the from 2003, 4, they
Mhm.
have evolved, at least in the case of Rolex, and they have the mixture has added platinum into the white gold and palladium, and more palladium than platinum.
Mhm.
So about 7 to 8% is palladium, and 5% there is platinum. So it doesn't get discolored over time. But if
So
it's
what?
platinum, all
Yeah,
platinum, then you're okay. It doesn't become yellow because they
yeah,
use, 950 platinum.
absolutely. And this is again apparently a piece from 2004. At least that's what the original warranty papers state.
Mm.
Bought from Trieste,
Nice, nice place.
lot
Beautiful women
lot 78,
or
with
men,
an
depending.
estimated value of 24,000 to 48,000 euro.
Mm. Okay.
What news do you bring
What
today?
news do I bring? I
Yeah,
bring, I'm not going to do the predictions comedy because I
no,
love listening to all these comedians who come up with predictions. This will be discontinued. Oh, this one will have an open case back. That one will have. Left from left they will go to right, from top they will go to bottom, and all that stuff. It makes a little use because the expiration date for all this is April 8th.
No, but that's, I think we said everything that needs to be said about that, anyways, Professor. Like you
Mm,
remember last time, and
yes.
I wasn't just trying to be mean, just for the sake of being mean.
Mm,
It's just most of these people literally have nothing to talk about, but they have channels. So until the next news cycle arrives, they
mm,
need to
mm,
fill the dead air. They need to find something to talk about, and
mm,
speculation is the best thing they can do because they don't have actual knowledge. Whether we are talking about knowledge based on an insider's insight or decades of accumulated experience and study, um, they're literally nobodies. But nobodies can become, for
somebody.
better or worse, social media influencers in this day and age. And yeah, I'm going to be the martyr. I'm taking up this mission onto myself, starting in May, to become an influencer with actual knowledge. I think it's going to happen over time, but we
Okay.
will need to be patient. But yeah, that's why, right? We don't have to do the prediction league because we actually have substantive watch knowledge, passionate exchanges, you know, discussion of our preferences, what we love or hate about watches. We don't need to, we don't have to make up shit as we go
Mm.
to talk about watches. So we're fortunate. We are
Well,
gifted.
there is so much stuff out there. And as
Yes.
I said, April 8th, everything will be over.
No, but that's exactly what they're waiting for. They have to fill the dead air until
Mm.
April 8th comes, and then they will just talk about new releases and
And then,
recite the spec sheet.
okay.
And then someone will fly them over somewhere, and they will start acting as a mouthpiece of a brand for a little bit. They will actually try to convince you that Jacob and Co makes horological masterpieces, that this or that maker is the new and emergent independent watchmaker. um, this other
Well,
maker,
by the
everything
way,
they make is absolutely stunning.
yeah,
It's like everyone is a friend, everything is a masterpiece. That
not
model of
only that,
journalism is
mm,
expiring. It's coming to an end.
and also on top of it, uh, these marketeers, self-promoting marketeers, um, they're also telling the wide public that they possess a large collection of watches. Large collection, they
Mm.
have 20 pieces, 10 pieces, 30 pieces, very expensive pieces. And at the end, they have very few of these pieces because as it comes in, it goes out the next day.
Right, right. That's well, that's again, the if you we talked
And they
about
use their platform, Lord, they use the platform to acquire watches and they use the platform to sell watches.
right. We talked about their lack of knowledge. I guess the next point is lack of principles and integrity.
Hmm.
They are flippers. They just churn things in and out. They have no actual passion, no real interest in watches. It's just a side hustle for most of them, and it is something that they are cycling out. I mean, it's not they can't do this forever. Um, it's it's silly, but at the end of the day, you know, YouTube is infested with with that particular species, and I don't think watches are really an exception. Except again, the lifespan is very short on those species, so it's it's on its way out. I genuinely believe this.
You
So
think so? Okay.
yeah, they are. It's either going to be that, or they are going to move on to something else. I mean, all this desperation about um, trying to produce content on cars or this or that. It's an outgrowth of that. The market is exhausted in and you can read that word in as many meanings as you want.
Mm.
um,
You
and
think
and it's
so?
also
Okay.
it's also
Interesting.
even worse in the sense that they they would sell Casio watches that they market as god tier to buy performance cars for themselves. I mean, it's one of the most cynical things I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, you are literally pushing shitter watches
Hmm.
on people um, who are supposed to embrace them because it's some sort of reverse snobbery. It makes you humble to wear a Casio instead of a luxury watch.
Mm.
Whereas obviously you are still paying hundreds of dollars and you're still chasing that hit of exclusivity and whatever else. Um, and at the end, you're just enriching some fool who is a self-anointed expert who has zero taste in watches and seemingly also not
Mm.
much of a
Mm.
taste in cars either. But that's a whole other thing, right? I mean, it's so funny that these people like the Nico Leonards, Ben Climbers, John Mayers, and Ed Sheerans of the world
Mm.
um, basically sell cheap watches to people to fund their expensive habits. It's insane, and it's insane that no one is talking about it. That everyone is, oh, Ben Clymer
The,
came out with a special.
Ed Sheeran, the singer. The Is that the guy?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm. Okay. He
yeah.
looks rather ugly.
No comment. No comment.
Yeah.
I do my best not to judge everyone by their.
By
Uh,
their looks, but
yeah,
everything is a look
because
thing.
I
It's a
mean, look,
2 second thing.
when I'm so handsome myself,
Ah, but that's
uh,
the beauty of it.
it feels unjust to drag
Right.
people down
Right.
for being ugly.
We live. Look, I mean, we live in a weird world. We live in a very weird world.
Yeah.
People are immersed in their self. We said that you and I in the past. I mean, in the recent past. They live in this self-perpetuating individualistic world.
Well, that
And
would be good.
there,
If they took their narcissism to the logical conclusion and completely cut themselves off from social interactions, including
they're
social
not.
media,
Yes,
that would be
yes.
that would be a great gain for the entire world. But
Mm,
unfortunately, that's not happening anytime soon. Memavox lightens up the mood towards the
ah,
end. He says from
good.
Denmark, "Good morning. Breaking
Mm.
rumor: the next Rolex will be a 39 millimeter bronze sub with a salmon dial, Salomon dial."
Salomon. Yeah, but okay, just let me say something about the industrial side of me, because people come up with all kinds of no comment to, no offense to Mr. Denmark there,
No,
but
he's joking. He's not. He's
he's
not being.
joking. He's joking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. But for them to move from 40 something to 39, they don't do these lateral moves, Rolex, right?
No, and
Uh,
and I mean, like, they're also not, unless they genuinely admit that it is a big mistake, like the like day
they
date
they
two.
too. Yes.
Um, they don't usually do that. And by all means, I think sub 41 has been actually a resounding success. I mean, it's selling well. So it's not obviously not going to happen, but Memovox, knowing the talking points of this channel, because he's a very loyal member of the audience, um, he knows that I like saying salmon dial appears everywhere. It's the new blue, it's the new green, and whatever.
No, no,
And
not for Rolex.
he also knows that the professor, it's a joke. Stop saying that it's not gonna happen. It's a joke.
Ah, it's a joke. Okay.
It's my audience is smart enough not to make these kinds of predictions.
Ah, it's a
Um,
joke. Okay, okay. We stick to the joke then. Salomon. Yes, very much so.
so Ozzy says maybe you can explain this better than
Ah,
I do.
he's
How does
awake.
Rolex communicate that Day-Date 2 was a mistake?
They stopped producing it.
Exactly. No, I mean, I would also add that um, it had a very short production period, and it's the 41. I mean, for the longest time, Day-Date was 36 millimeters, and it's the kind of watch with its bracelets, with its full precious metal look. It's a watch that has a lot of presence. It's a watch that has a lot of heft materially and almost metaphysically. So it was already a big jump
Mm.
for the Day-Dates to be available in 40 millimeters to begin with. Um, and that's a relatively recent thing as well. No, it's like, wasn't the Day-Date 40 released in 2015 or something?
Correct. 15. Yes.
Um, the Day-Date 2 was, what were the years of production on Day-Date 2, Professor? Do you remember at all?
Um,
Or
10
should I search?
to 10 to 13, 14, 3, 4 years.
Okay, yeah. So the when you do that, um, I see 8 to 15, but maybe even
Yeah,
shorter.
maybe 8 to 15 pounds. Yeah, okay.
But in either case, right?
Mm.
It's I feel the way they discontinued that and they scaled down. Also, yeah, I feel it's something, right. Maybe communicate is not the best word choice on my part, because I said, like, it's like, unless it's like the Day-Date 2 where they pull back and it's they're admitting a mistake. But in a subtle way, I think that's exactly what it means. That's and honestly, Rolex is tricky with these numbers, right? Day-Date 2 is supposed to be 41, but I feel like it borders on 42 when it comes down to it. No, it's larger than 41 in
Yeah, it
terms of
is.
actual diameter.
It is. And also remember they had the oversized Datejust,
Right.
and it was a phase back then when there was no YouTube and no what's his name, Leonard, what's and Ed and Mr. Mayer. Mayer? Yeah.
Right.
And all these useless people. Um, there was a trend that was set by Panerai in the 90s,
Mm,
which Rolex felt they need to produce a
mhm.
similarly large watch. And what they discovered is that there was a trend for women to be buying large watches. and that worked well for some of these pieces, but it didn't work well for the majority of their market, which was men. It was just oversized, and the market was not yet ready. Yet again, Rolex went back and reconfigured the cases, and you came out with the Sea Dweller 43. They came out around that time with the Deep Sea, because the
Mhm.
Deep Sea came out, when was it? In 2010, 11, 12, somewhere there.
Mhm.
And so they kept the Deep Sea, but then they reconfigured the case for the larger pieces, and the Sea Dweller became the host of the 43 case, and then slowly they started shifting, and came the production of the Yachtmaster 2. So already there was a discussion, a debate about larger cases, which they were testing and reconfiguring between 2010 and 2018. Hmm?
The Deep Sea apparently came out in
Nine?
'08, but
Oh, eight,
maybe
yeah. Yeah.
maybe you are confusing it with James Cameron, which came out in 2014.
Yeah, yeah, 14, James Cameron, but the original
Hmm.
came, yeah,
That's
in
much
'08.
earlier.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Professor, I really have this back pain, and I was going to
I will
actually
let you. I will
close
let you go.
um, before you arrived, but thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for your support and presence. All the members who were in the chat, including
Mm,
um, but not limited to Memovox and Aces Full, whose names I have seen. I'm sure there are so many others. Our friend Aussie Expats.
mm,
Again, thank you so much. Hit the like button if you haven't. Subscribe if you are not already subscribed, because I have watched contents coming out practically on a daily basis. So I'm sure you will find something you like, something that interests you, something that you will learn from. Members get exclusive access to an ever growing archive of special content um, that is in the form of focused, shorter discoveries in the markets, jam packed with historical and horological information. As I mentioned before, this is an independent channel. This is an independent platform that embraces all and that is purely here for knowledge of, for increasing and intensifying the knowledge of and passion for wristwatches. So,
mm,
any support or contributions you can give, whether it is through the options that YouTube provides you, or memberships, or through the links that I provide in the video description, are appreciated, and they come back to you in the form of increased quality and quantity of content. Memovox, thank you so
mm.
much again. 50 Danish crowns. I appreciate you. Um, and Professor, do you have some parting words for of our audience? Um,
Um, no, no. Protecting Africa's forests and tracking wild camels with satellites
what?
and extracting water from the air.
Extracting
Um,
water from the air. Okay.
yes,
What,
yes.
how do you do that?
How do you do that? Apparently, a Kenyan entrepreneur has been awarded money to
Okay.
address this issue by Rolex.
I was just gonna. joke about does Rolex fund these, and they
Yes,
do.
they do.
Okay,
Yeah, and if you want to track wild camels, then Rolex is funding a project to track wild camels with satellites. How about that?
amazing, amazing,
Yeah,
amazing. I mean, look, it's a
your
lot of.
good earned money is helping track wild camels.
I mean, some great poetry has been produced in the past about camels, but that could be subject for another broadcast, perhaps on another
I think we
platform.
need to do a philosophical channel as well. You know, next to watches, we do these philosophical channels, and we get Memovox and Ozzy to participate because I like these
We
kind
can,
of discussions.
we can,
Yeah,
we can do something about that. And I'm a
you're a
free
big,
man, free
you
man
are,
after
you are, you are.
May 15. So we can certainly delve into that. I don't know if you remember, but I had a series like that.
You did
Called
with,
Everyday Philosophy, where I um, try to read some philosophy that would be practical for the everyday, and
mm,
there's some audience for that, and I think it can make sense as part of a man's lifestyle channel that has, as always, the main focus on watches, um, man's style, and also as with the understanding that none of that should happen in vacuum, carelessly, without thought. Right? It's all of this needs to make sense somehow within your means, within the way you live your life, within your environment, within your family, within
mm.
your set of values. If you have them, I hope you have them. Um, but yeah, that's that's certainly an interesting project.
By the way, how far are you? How far is your location to Stanford? Is it
It's
far?
basic. Yeah, it's the other end of the state, Professor. It's
Oh
like
shit.
they're
Okay.
they're up north. I'm all the way in
Uh,
the south.
I just got invited to a special round table at Stanford in
Yeah, it.
May. In May, yeah. And I
Yeah, it.
looked at and I said, okay, what are we gonna talk about? He told me. I said, okay, that's very interesting, which is shit. But anyway, so this is an opportunity to fly to California and see young Brando, and maybe we can get Mr. Platinum, Mr. Ozzy, to
Well,
kind
look,
of meet halfway. No
halfway is bullshit. I mean,
bullshit,
that's
halfway,
too.
too far away.
I
Okay,
think it's more effort actually than you think. If we are gonna meet,
we should come to
I
you
should fly. No, no. I should either, yeah, I should fly to Bay
wherever.
Area,
Yeah,
and we meet there, because halfway
it's
you don't
like
want to meet. Like,
you
California is great. I mean, there are a lot of interesting places all over, but halfway is not the
halfway.
most interesting part of California, and it would be really a waste of your time and mine. It's much
Okay,
better if I fly over or you come
we
down.
fly down. Okay. We
Yeah.
need to get Ozzy also, or we go to his place in Las Vegas
Um,
and we hang out. I don't
well,
know
if
what we
you,
do
I
there.
mean, yeah,
We can
if you
do
were
the
saying,
Hangover 52.
well, Aussie, well, I mean, you look. The funny thing is, I'm the single one, and I'm absolutely not interested in any of those escapades.
No, okay.
Well, actually, anyway, we leave that as a mystery. I was gonna say I'm not really single anymore.
Ah, you're not single anymore. Okay. You
No,
have a
but we don't.
lovey You're engaged? You're married?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no
okay.
way,
Please don't
no
get
way.
married.
But yeah, I'm seeing someone. I'm
Ah,
seeing
you're
some.
seeing somebody. Okay, all right, that's good. Okay, no problem. You can
You
bring
know, I don't like admitting this and talking
in
about
public.
this with my
Yeah,
audience, but
yeah, yeah.
it's okay.
No, no, it's okay. I also, I find very difficult for people, with some exceptions, when they display their watches frivolously and they claim that this is their collection.
Mm,
I really hold uh, a lot of doubt when they, start displaying, especially the very expensive pieces.
mm,
And you know, kind of their background, they're salesmen in this, salesmen in that, and they cannot afford these kind of watches, and they sell them. Now, of course, this is not intended towards our esteemed Ozzy. I know that he's a man of high ethics.
I was behind the scenes. I was trying to recommend him that to stir up some scandal, some controversy for his channel, like sell all your Rolex and buy some performance cars with the premium, and maybe we'll get some extra subscribers through that. But honestly, I mean,
No, no,
it's
it's a scam. It's a scam. These people are scammers.
it's getting tiring anyways. I don't think people are going to go after something like that forever. um that being said, guys, again, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being
Okay.
here. Memovox, thank you, especially you, for not only your generous contribution but also your beautiful camel joke. What do camels say about the oasis? It won't ever desert you. It's great. Whiskey, nice to see you again too. Aussie expat 521 Taipei, and earlier also Dark Childs, Patek Chris, all of you. I love you guys. Take care. Again, hit the like button if you haven't. God knows how much difference it makes. Leave a comment after this stream ends. That also helps the stream pick up some steam. Share the links, spread the word far and wide, and help me reach 5,000
Mm,
subscribers. That should be the next goal.
yeah.
Let's go. I'll see you in the
Let's
next
go.
one. Wear and enjoy your watches. My
Mm,
beautiful, humble Datejust.
they just magic water.
We will see you in the next one. Take care.